Let's go on to the third question. Third question that I have here is if you don't have a youth meeting, a weekly youth meeting, well, how do you facilitate youth ministry? Well, youth ministry doesn't necessarily need a youth meeting per se. Not a I would say this, not a traditional youth meeting where you have to have. Well, we're gonna have a worship band and we're gonna have all the things and preaching and small groups and all that. I think churches can do youth ministry. I'm going to shock everybody here. Could do youth ministry. You don't have to have a youth group to do youth ministry. You don't have to have a youth group to do you don't have to have the midweek meeting. If a church is committed to ministering to youth in their community, the weekly meeting, if that is not a standard of your church, if that is not a big hoo-ha, if that's not a thing where it said, well, we have to have a church to have that to draw people into our thing, you can still do good youth ministry without having a youth group or a midweek meeting. You're going to see kids on Sunday, and Sunday is your youth meeting, right? If it's Sunday school, you have an automatic small group. If the church that you work at is not requiring you to build a youth group, or maybe your church is older and you don't have very many youth in there, you can still do good youth ministry for the students that attend your church. And so if you are, like I said, if you're whether you're part-time or bivocational or full-time, you can still do good youth ministry by simply saying, I'm going to take a couple of kids out to eat for lunch a couple times a month. You can still do events. You can still do activities. If your church is not requiring you to build a large youth group or to have this kind of big momentum in youth ministry kind of a thing at your church, you have an older church, you can always use those students in service projects. How can we, me or the youth pastor, whoever, that has the 5 or 6 students, how do we flip it? Instead of saying, how do we gather more of your friends, you turn it into more of a discipleship mode that says, how do we serve the rest of the church? And that can be anything from hosting a Saturday morning pancake breakfast for the adults in the church. It could be helping with Sunday service. It could be helping with service projects that their church has going on, because you're doing more of an integrational model, an intergenerational model where you're joining. So I think the pressure to have, if there's no pressure to have a formal youth group midweek setting type of thing, then use that opportunity, not just for yourself, but for other members of your congregation to bear the responsibility of ministering to youth. It's not just the youth pastor's job. It's the church's job. You can't hire out the mission of the church, which is to make disciples of all people, not just adult people, young people. And so I would say just go ahead and if you don't have a midweek meeting, find ways to invite kids to your house for a monthly fellowship. Find ways to integrate them into the church and allowing other people to speak into their lives. Be a facilitator of those things versus a manager of a weekly youth meeting where you have to kind of have all the bells and whistles. So it's neither good nor bad. It's just a matter of, what is your church asking you to do, and how can you best meet those expectations to do that. And so I think, like I said, it's not good or bad. It's just do youth ministry. Minister to young people, no matter in what format you get them, however they come through the doors, whatever time they're able to give you, and whatever time you can be able to give them. Just love students. Find ways to pray with them often. When you see them, that's youth ministry. Just say, hey, how can I pray for you this week? Or can I pray with you right now? That's youth ministry. Maybe it's more social media. Maybe it is Zoom. Maybe it's other things if you don't have a weekly meeting or don't have a youth room or whatever the reason is. There is nothing stopping you or your church from doing good youth ministry.